Ein Zeichen des Willkommens möchte Orgel-Star Cameron Carpenter mit seinem Benefizkonzert setzen. Der 34-jährige Amerikaner, der selbst seit Jahren in Berlin lebt, spielte eine Stunde lang auf seiner International Touring Organ. Viele Berliner und Besucher kamen zum Gendarmenmarkt und hörten den klassischen und modernen Tönen gespannt zu. Die Spenden gehen an die Initiative Moabit hilft. Der Verein wirkt durch integrationsfördernde Maßnahmen in den Heimen und unterstützt bei der Erstaufnahme von Flüchtlingen. Im Interview mit Wirtschaft TV betont Carpenter, dass gerade Musiker und Komponisten in den vergangenen Jahrhunderten Flüchtlinge und Immigranten waren und wie wichtig es für Künstler heutzutage sein sollte, sich als Vorbilder für andere einzusetzen. Joining me now is Cameron Carpenter, one of the world's most famous organists, and he has some responsibility. Today he gave a benefit concert for the refugees coming to Germany and to Europe. Cameron, do you feel as an artist a special responsibility?
Oh, I certainly do, yeah. I think it's particularly true in the case of musicians, of classical musicians, that if we look to our recent past, and I mean recent, like the history of the 20th century and 20th century music, what we very quickly see is that we wouldn't have music as we know it today without the artistic gifts of musicians, particularly composers from the 20th century, who all were at some time affected by war and often were themselves refugees at one point or another. And when you consider that much of the 20th century's turbulations in music gave us all of popular music today, you really have to realize that musicians, above anyone else, should be taking it upon themselves to help not just help refugees, but to help people who aren't refugees understand why they need to help refugees. It's just very, very simple. And I think musicians who would fail to grasp that would miss a big opportunity.
You by yourself, you're from the United States, living in Germany and Berlin today and traveling the world. Do you think that the opportunities you had in your life is a great gift and other people should have a chance to just start their lives?
Well, that's just it. And I obviously am an incredibly privileged person. I mean, any way you cut it. I'm lucky. I work hard, but I've been immensely fortunate to have the chance to build an instrument of my own and to play around the world. And I'd like to try to use that in a more forward-giving way. Obviously, there's a tendency, I fear, in Europe right now, and also perhaps in America, where we certainly have our own immigration problems, to think about the other. And to think, well, these people, they're going to change something about our society. I mean, if you feel that way, you lose, you miss sort of a basic understanding of the fact that all of human life is an interplay of change and culture. But it would also be a mistake to forget how the migration of peoples across history always enriches cultures. Think of, in my position, I almost feel selfish in the sense that I want to know as a musician what I'm going to be able to learn from people who are coming under whatever circumstances from other countries and from other cultures. As a musician, you want that chance. And particularly in classical music, we're at a time where all of us in classical music are asking, what do we do? How do we relate to culture? Because our culture is changing. Classical music has a much more diminished role than it used to. So, if you ever ask that as a questioning classical musician or somebody who likes classical music, boy, you've got your answer now.
At the moment we see that some countries like Germany are having border controls again. Do you think this is like a step back because it's not the freedom maybe the European Union is standing for?
Well, the Dalai Lama gave some interesting comments the other night about England's ability to only take 20,000. On one hand, that seems like a trifling number, and I personally don't greatly care to hear that the United States is only taking 20,000 refugees, and then only in 2016. This is, if you added a zero to that, we might be able to talk, President Obama. On the other hand, I am a musician, and I think people in the public eye often, especially performers, sometimes overstep their boundaries to say what should or shouldn't happen. I wouldn't pretend to know what to do about the border crisis, and I thank my stars that I'm not in the shoes of Angela Merkel or anybody else to have to make those decisions. All I can say is, as a person who has come from America to Germany, who's been welcomed by Germany, I want to see Germany give the same welcome to everyone, and I don't see any reason why they shouldn't.
Cameron Carpenter, I mean, you have big shoes, but maybe some politicians have even bigger shoes. Thank you so much for the interview. Appreciate your time, and thanks for your art. Thank you for watching Wirtschaft TV.